Hi, I watched your video on the whole issue, the abortion issue, and I just want to talk briefly on it. Today I watched a documentary on Nicolae Ceauşescu, um, and the whole, I mean, it was deeply, deeply disturbing. And I had known some of that history in Romania in the 60s, where they instituted a policy of no abortions. Abortions were banned and contraceptives were banned, and the population doubled within a few years. And what happened was they had all these children who were unwanted, and their parents couldn't feed them, couldn't take care of them, so they ended up in institutions. And of course that was only the beginning of the horror, where afterward the kids, the children became malnourished, and they were giving the kids blood transfusions to keep them alive. And it turned out these blood transfusions came from sailors who would pull into port from all over the world, and this was unscreened blood, right in the 80s, when the whole AIDS epidemic was firing up in earnest. And I mean, it was just one horror after another. And when I watched it, I thought of you, and I thought of how upset you were. And it made me think, I had, prior to watching that documentary, I had seen on YouTube the video of Ceausescu and his wife being executed. And it really, it was, I mean, of course, watching anyone being killed is horrifying. But what I saw on this documentary was just far, far worse. I mean, hundreds of thousands of children who have permanent developmental problems because of their beginning in life, and because of deprivation of stimuli. So what I really wanted to say is that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to wonder how our world would be, our societies would be, if women did not have the choice to their own, reproductive rights. The experiment has already been done, and it really wasn't that long ago. It was in the 60s, the late 60s, and this whole thing came out during the 80s. So we don't need to wonder what it would be like. And this was a communist government. I mean, the bane of the right-wing movement is communism, and yet they have this ideology that is similar to that ideology where you control a woman's body, but obviously they believe for religious reasons. But we don't need to reinvent the wheel, as I said before, because the experiment has been done, and it's failed horribly. Sometimes you watch things and you hear things, and they just stay with you. And that is one of the things that will stay with me, those images of those babies lying in their own filth. They're wet. They're so hungry. This woman said one baby was so hungry, it was laying there licking excrement, its own excrement, off its hands, because he hadn't been fed. And I don't know, that you know what, it looked like the Holocaust all over again, except it was all children. And so that's my 2 cents. And don't be sad. I think the right thing will prevail and good will prevail. Thanks for listening.